Hey y'all, welcome back to Exile Wargaming today, and as always, we're going to be talking about winning with Harlequins in competitive 10th edition Warhammer 40k with a battle report against Unending Swarm Tyranids. Now, first things first, let's go over the list. We have a Solitaire, a Death Jester with Fate's Messenger, 3 Troop Masters, 5 units of troops with Fusion Pistols, 2 Star Weavers, 3 Falcons with Bright Lance, Pulse Laser, and Shuriken Cannons, 2 D Cannons, 2 units of Sky Weavers with Haywire and Glaives, a unit of Swooping Hawks, and Warp Spiders. Now, I spoke with a viewer in the comment section, and they asked, are 3D cannons really necessary? And I don't believe that you need 3D cannons. I just prefer it. So what we did in this list is drop a D cannon to make space for the Death Jester, and it also allowed us to upgrade one of our Swooping Hawk units into Warp Spiders. Now we are at 18 total units coming in at 1,995 points. Now our opponent is playing Tyranids, the Unending Swarm, and I believe they have right around 160 models. They have a Death Leaper, a Neurotyrant, a Turvagon, 20 Gargoyles, 20 Hormagaunts, 5 units of 20 Termagants, a Biovore, 20 Neuragaunts, a Neurolictor, 3 Venomthropes, 3 Zonethropes, a Ripper Swarm, an Exocrine, and a Psychophage. Now it's 18 total units coming in at 1,990 points, but they do get to bring back one of these units if it's completely wiped each turn. So it could be far more than even this. Now we'll be playing Mission J, which is Sights of Power, Chilling Rain on GW Terrain Layout 4. Now, moving into deployment, this took forever. There were so many models to place on the board. It's almost like he didn't have enough space to even get them all down. I would highly recommend, if you are playing in a tournament setting, that you use a time clock. This game took almost 5 hours. Now, we were joking around and having a good time, but the movement phases are so intricate. It really kind of takes away from the game experience. So just try to stay in it, use a clock, and make sure you're getting the most out of your opportunity. Now, we deploy very similarly to how we always do. We have a Falcon, a Star Weaver, Sky Weavers on one flank. We have the Death Jester behind this building over here. We have Swooping Hawks in the middle in case we want to move up and do actions or move block, whatever it may be. We have a D cannon here not touching the terrain, and then another D cannon up under here, and then the Solitaire up front. If we get something like Area Denial first turn, that's very nice to have. Our other Falcon, Star Weaver, and Sky Weavers are down here. The only major change we made in this list, beyond dropping a D cannon for the Death Jester and upgrading to the Warp Spiders, is that we have Glaives on our Sky Weavers. I had been running Star Bolas for a long time, and sometimes they're okay, but I really do feel like the extra punch in melee is something worth exploring. So we're doing that this game. I thought our opponent was going to be bringing Chaos Knights, and instead we got a horde of gray plastic to fight with today, which is exciting. So really my action plan in this game is to slowly move up our units, take space on these middle objectives, and not allow the horde to crash into our back lines. Now, rolling the dice a little bit before the game, I realized our troop units are ridiculously efficient into these swarm units. So there's not a lot of shooting that's going to be going on. The goal is to just continually push back with the units of troops, get them back in the Star Weaver to protect them for the next turn, and then just continually embark and disembark into their units. Our opponent deployed their Gargoyles up top here, their Hormagaunts down on this flank over here. They are extremely fast. I think they move 10 inches. They can advance and charge. I kind of was hoping that he would move out into this area. But otherwise, everything else is just lined up, ready to push the center of the board. Now, our opponent wins the dice roll and goes first. He does take fixed objectives, so it's cleanse and deploy teleport homers. He moves the gargoyles up here. They shoot into the Falcon, and then they scuttle up forward afterwards. They can't charge because they did the move and shoot. The Hormagaunts move up to this objective. They do not have the charge. I believe it was an 11-inch charge to get into the Sky Weavers, and he missed it. Otherwise, he deployed a Spore Mine in the middle to get deploy teleport homers, and he cleanses this objective and this objective down here. In our movement phase, we pretty much shift everyone up to challenge the gargoyles. We move the Skyweavers up here. We move the Starweaver. We do not disembark our troops over here. We disembark our troops from the Falcon and scoot it back just a little bit, and then we get the Death Jester into the Falcon afterwards. Warp Spiders stay the same. These Falcons stay the same. One of the D cannons moves up a little bit into here. There's no real targets for it this turn. It ends up shooting into the Spore Mine at the end of it all. Now, we don't want to shoot a bunch of our opponent's units to get them either closer to us or on the objectives. The ranges for this make it very difficult if they do not get to scuttle. Down here at the bottom, we disembark our troop unit. They move up to challenge the Hormagaunts. We move the Starweaver up, and we move the Skyweavers up as well. In the shooting phase, we target the unit of gargoyles with the Falcon. We are 7.1 inches away from everyone. We made sure of that so he could not lock us into combat, and we fired with the Falcon. The Falcon ended up killing like 6 gargoyles. They scuttled, got into combat with the Starweaver, kind of a cheeky move of here. Didn't realize that it can fire in combat because it's a vehicle. It's also open topped, so everyone inside gets to fire. We roll like 4 6s. We end up wiping out, I believe, 17 gargoyles between the Falcon and everything coming out of the Starweaver. It was pretty nice. Down here, we just choose not to shoot, and again, we put this D cannon into this Spore Mine in the center. Now, we did draw secure no man's land and engage on all fronts, so we did want to make sure that we are clearing both of these objectives and that we are able to charge down here and get that extra engage on all fronts. So the Starweavers or Skyweavers up top end up clearing the gargoyles. Unfortunately, they're going to be able to come back next turn. He did use the 2CP strat. Down low, the Harlequin troop and the Skyweavers and the Starweaver itself with a grenade ended up obliterating this unit of Hormagaunts. Our troops are shockingly effective into these units. Light infantry with 1,000,000 attacks. We get +1 to wound on the charge. It is very reasonable that a standard 5-man unit of troops can bring down 12 or 13 of them without any major issue. So we end up scoring 8 total on our secondaries, and we move into our opponent's next turn. In our opponent's turn, they bring the Horde, end up dropping the gargoyles down up top, 9 inches away from the Skyweavers. They do a move and shoot, bringing the Skyweaver down 1 wound. We use lightning fast reflexes to get him hitting on 5s. This unit of Termagants moved up to the center. They cleansed this objective. All the other Gaunts started coming up. This unit of Termagants down here ended up getting onto this objective where they will cleanse it as well. Now we brought in, I believe this is an Exocrine, and completely annihilated this unit of Skyweavers with some small arms fire from these Termagants here. One real kind of cheeky play, he tried to shoot a Spore Mine into our backline to get deployed teleport homers for 4, but realizing that we are going to be down severely on primary this next turn, we're only going to score a 5, I thought it'd be best to overwatch with the Falcon. Now, I also thought I'd be fortunate enough to roll a 6 at any point in time to kill this, and I did not. So on our last shot with the Bright Lance, we had to sub in a 6 on the Fate dice and just completely wipe this Spore Mine. So we did keep 4 points off the board there. On our turn 2, we end up drawing Area Denial and deploy Teleport Homers. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to deploy Teleport Homers. We just don't have the units to do it, but I can definitely use the CP. We end up disembarking our troops from this top Starweaver to come out over here. They're going to end up charging this unit of gargoyles, hopefully from the side. This other unit of troops that was originally staged down here is going to move up towards this angle as well, and then the Skyweavers are going to come in. Hopefully we can just charge this entire unit of gargoyles down, hold, and block the objective afterwards. Now, our unit of troops that was in the Falcon, originally staged here, gets out and moves up, and then we move the Solitaire up as well. What's really nice about this, and our opponent playing fixed objectives is they do not have the CP to do anything like Overwatch. They have to keep it in their back pocket. They're using 2 a turn. They're only generating 2 a turn. So I didn't have to worry about Overwatch or anything like that. Both of our Falcons end up shifting down here to shoot into the Exocrine, and we disembark our troops from the Star Weaver to get some grenades and fusion pistols on that Exocrine as well. We shift the Warp Spiders up. They end up firing into this unit of Termagants. We kill like 7 or 8 of them, and then they scuttle into the Star Weaver. The Star Weaver is then able to shoot and remove a few wounds over here onto this guy. In the shooting phase, the Falcons and the troops down here put everything in the Exocrine, and we pretty easily get that destroyed. The D cannon over here ends up shooting and killing a Zoanthrope who poked out a little bit earlier. Now, we shot almost nothing up top. We did not shoot Termagants except for by the Warp Spiders, and we did not shoot anything up top here. We just did not want those gargoyles to scuttle into us and fight first. Our units are still really squishy, and we have such a huge advantage fighting on the charge. So we get into this top combat here. This unit of gargoyles had absolutely zero hope. I feel like we could have killed 50 of them. So we will take this objective. The unit with the Troop Master gets back in the Star Weaver afterwards. Our unit of troops in the middle end up wiping out this unit of Termagants. The Troop Master in the Solitaire alone, I think, killed like 14 or 15 of them. And then down low, we end up charging our unit of Harlequins. It was an 8-inch charge into this unit of Termagants. Here, we end up killing a substantial amount of them. I think we wiped the entire unit because the Warp Spiders dropped 6 or 7 earlier. Now, in our opponent's following turn, I realize exactly what this is. He's not trying to kill anything. It's all just about denying the points and the objectives, denying your opponent's primary, and just scoring as many consistent secondaries as they can. So they dropped the gargoyles back here. They were 9 inches away. They shot, did some wounds to the Star Weaver, and then moved forward, but they could not get onto the objective. The Biovore shot a Spore Mine back here. They got 4 points on deploy teleport homers. The Termagants in the middle advanced and completely annihilated a squad of troops, but we did have the Troop Master left on 4 wounds. The Solitaire stayed stationary. Down low, they moved the Termagants up and cleansed this objective. We did Overwatch with the Warp Spiders and killed 11 of them. They ended up engagement range of the Star Weaver afterwards. Now, the Death Leaper, I believe that's who this is, also moved up, attempting some combat afterwards, and the Neurolictor down here moved up as well, hopefully trying to bring down this Star Weaver. In the charge phase, our opponent moves the Neurolictor into the Star Weaver, ends up bringing it down to 1 wound. Those 4 of invulns are absolutely incredible sometimes. And the Death Leaper moves into the Solitaire. I guess he was looking to see what he could do against the most badass elf in the universe. And he found out. We end up swinging with 9 attacks. I think we hit on all 9 of them. I think we wound on 6 or 7 of them with the reroll, and the Death Leaper gets bodied before he even gets to swing back. So Solitaire is absolutely incredible. In our following turn, we draw Defend Stronghold and Behind Enemy Lines. Now, we disembark our troops from the Star Weaver. We fall back the Star Weaver. We pass the Desperate Escape. We move our Swooping Hawks that we picked up at the end of last turn into this corner here, and then the Warp Spiders end up using their Warp Jump to get back behind this, so we will end up getting a 5 on Behind Enemy Lines. The Falcon moves up. This Falcon moves up. Death Jester gets out. We end up firing into this giant monster here, and so does the Death Jester. We do a pretty good number of wounds as well. This Falcon shoots into him there, and then the Warp Spiders end up finishing it off. We overkill it by quite a number of wounds, so this was nice. It did end up exploding, so we lost a Warp Spider. He lost 2 or 3 Termagants from this unit and a couple Termagants from this unit, I believe, as well. Everything else fired into this Neurolictor. Fusion pistols, the Star Weaver, and the Swooping Hawks, it was enough to bring it down. On this top, we end up moving out our unit of troops, and we bring the Sky Weavers up to just try to finish off this final unit of gargoyles over here. We shoot one D cannon into another one of the zone thropes. I believe we end up killing all three of them this turn. In our charge phase, we just make the push. We had moved a unit of Harlequin troop from this block up forward here. We end up getting a charge into the Venom Thropes, I believe. The Troop Master and the Solitaire, who blitz this turn, end up able to, I believe, wipe this unit minus 1 or 2 Termagants at the end. The Troop and the Skyweavers up here are able to kill this block of gargoyles up top. And then our troop down low is easily able to finish off these remaining Termagants down here. At this point, after about 5 hours, we just decided to talk through the rest of the game. It was pretty much done and cleared. We held all of the major objectives, and there was no way for him to get any more secondaries. He could have got deployed teleport homers another time for 4, which is perfectly fine and reasonable, but he wasn't going to be cleansing any objectives, and he was only going to score a max of 5 on primary. We had screened out a good portion of the board. There was no good state to put the gargoyles in, and we ended up drawing for our following turn Assassination and Bring It Down. We ditched Bring It Down and got Extend Battle Lines. So if we just move the Warp Spiders up and the Swooping Hawks up, we can very easily kill this solo character over here, and then we'll score a 10 on secondaries. Realistically, there's a case to be made where if he would have just strung out a lot of his units and contested multiple objectives at the same time, he would have done a good bit better. But to be fair, we didn't use almost any of our army. We did this primarily with 4 troop units, just recycling over and over again in the Star Weavers. The Warp Spiders were very, very good. Swooping Hawks are very good as long as we don't have to worry about them getting into engagement range. And the Solitaire killed over 30 models himself. So I think we have a really, really strong game into Tyranids themselves, just given how efficient we are at killing light infantry. Now, at the end of it all, we end up drawing Capture Enemy Outpost and Storm Hostile Objective. Now, we didn't score these because it was kind of a coin flip on whether I would be able to get them or not. And if this was a tournament game, this is where it would end, 91-70. Now, I think we have a ton of strengths against Unending Swarm. We trade very, very well. Most importantly, our melee is ridiculously effective. 21 to 27 attacks coming out of our troop units. A lot of those hits are coming on 2s. We're wounding on 2s. We have some rerolls built in. It is very easy for us to destroy 20-man blobs with something like a 75 or 130 point unit. Star Weavers are exceptional, especially against Termagants. They don't have a reliable way to consistently bring them down, and all we really need is it to protect our troops for 1 round of shooting. Now, we got them to protect our troops from multiple rounds of shooting. Just wipe a unit, get back in the Star Weavers, give the Termagants a bad target, and we're on our way. The Solitaire is absurd in a matchup like this. I believe he killed over 30 models himself before we even got into the final turn tally. It could have been upwards of 40. Our board presence is very beneficial. We can continually push forward and move up, screen sections of the board that we choose not to fight in. Gives our opponents really bad options for where to drop things like gargoyles or hormagaunts if they want to get back into the fight. We have a high volume of light infantry attacks. It feels like we're playing with Custodes. Realistically, 21 to 27 attacks coming out of our units. While we're not as hard hitting as Custodes, a unit like that is really only effective into standard infantry, not these light infantry models. So we're doing more than enough damage. Sometimes people focus on the data sheets themselves, but really what we should be focusing on is what you need to get the job done, and these troops are more than enough. The other thing that was monstrously huge, I believe, is that we don't have to rely on our shooting. We didn't give our opponents any extra movement at any point in time. Now, as far as our weaknesses, our D cannons and our Falcons have very few targets. I don't want to shoot into a unit of gargoyles or hormagaunts or termagants with something like a Falcon. There is a cheeky play to be made where you fire a Falcon into it, just one bright lance, and then you use a fate dice of a 1 to not wound so you can get the rerolls and they don't get to scuttle. But I didn't need to use it at any point in time. And also, we have very little objective control. What kind of sucks is that we have to completely wipe a unit in order to take an objective, and it allows them to put it back into strategic reserve. He brought back his gargoyles 4 times throughout this game, which is pretty wild when you think about it. I believe we ended up killing over 200 models throughout the course of this game. Now, there's also something to be said about the list that our opponent brought. If it had more shooting focus, maybe more exocrines or something able to deal a little bit more damage, it might have been different. But on the flip side, we didn't use our Falcons at all during this game. We used them once on our first turn. I used one of them, and then I used 2 Falcons on the following turn. Otherwise, him having units that can target us would have just given my D cannons and my Falcons actual targets to shoot at. So I don't believe that it would make a huge difference. It could have made some, but I think having more points in the Horde made sense for his list at the time. So I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know if there's a specific matchup against a specific faction you'd like me to get into. I'm more than happy to put it on the table. I'm looking towards getting a game against Green Tide or Bully Boys here soon. We have a matchup against Chaos Knights over the next couple weeks, and we have another matchup against Iron Storm. But if there's a specific list that you'd like me to play with, or variants of this list, I'm more than happy to do that as well. If you want to see what it looks like without D cannons or Falcons, maybe using big bricks of Skyweavers and Void Weavers, maybe it's using the Yvrain or Vizark bricks, I'm more than happy to get that on the table. But thank you again. I appreciate you all. Please like, share, and subscribe. It means more than you can possibly imagine. Take care.